Chances are that if you have been paying even the slightest attention, you will have heard Hello Games' two recent significant announcements for the future of No Man's Sky in 2019. The first is a massive free expansion called Beyond. This will be divided up into 3 parts, one of which will focus on the multiplayer aspects of the game. The second, more recent announcement is the introduction of VR on both PlayStation 4 as well as PC. I'm Obsidian Ant, and in this video I'm going to talk about the hopes and potential issues for all of this. So, No Man's Sky has had a fantastic amount of updates since its release all the way back in August of 2016, and it's really hard to believe that the game has been around for 2.5 years now. I really can't believe that. But despite the length of time, despite the fact that the game really doesn't have microtransactions and doesn't sell DLC or season passes, the game still continues to receive substantial updates that leave most other games in a shameful position. The Beyond update will continue that trend. Now, I'm not really a huge fan of the multiplayer side of exploration-focused games. For me, exploration is a solitary affair. However, No Man's Sky has a lot of different ways that you can play, so multiplayer certainly has a large place in the game, and it's something that a lot of players enjoy. So what Hello Games are calling No Man's Sky Online is going to be great news for players who love the multiplayer side of things. Now, at the moment, details are light on just what the online part means in all of this. However, Hello Games have gone out of their way to say that they don't consider it to be an MMO. It won't require a subscription, it won't contain microtransactions, so it's really hard to speculate on exactly what this will entail. Right now, multiplayer does exist within No Man's Sky, but in many respects it's fairly limited. For example, players can group into parties of 4 members with a max of 16 players in any one star system. It's also worth pointing out that players not in the same party as each other see each other as glowing orbs. Together, players in a party can co-op build bases, can do certain missions along with some exploration group features. What No Man's Sky Online will add to this feature list is uncertain, but hopes would be that at the very least the limitations on how players can see each other will be removed. That is to say, no more player floating orbs. I'd also like to see the number of players present in any single star system dramatically increased. Player trade-in, equipment and ship transfers also seem to be nice options. And who knows, maybe some type of player guild functionality could also be added. But that brings me to another point. One of No Man's Sky's greatest strengths is also its greatest weakness. That is its size of the game world. The fact that right now it doesn't really have any centralized hubs in the sense of traditional online games. There's no city, no hubs, no single locations that all players can visit. And for an online game, that can present issues. It's the same problem shared by Elite Dangerous. However, there are ways around this, either in the form of a global interface, a massive website-styled location where players can interact and share, or alternatively, a central hub that players can teleport to. Personally, I'd love to see the later option, but again, who knows? Now, the VR announcement is particularly interesting to me. Sony are certainly continuing a massive push with VR, and we can see this with the likes of Marvel's Iron Man VR, which quite frankly looks absolutely terrible, and Sony's own Blood and Truth, which does look pretty interesting. No Man's Sky VR is in a good position because it's not simply a VR experience or an added-on product. It's not just something you're going to experience on the side. Nope, this is full-on VR inside the existing game. In short, you'll be able to experience the entire game through PSVR and SteamVR. Personally, for me, this is a great thing. I love the No Man's Sky's environments, which are very reminiscent of classic sci-fi art. So having the ability to jump right inside is something I'm looking forward to. Judging from the trailer, it also looks as though Hello Games are going with the virtual joystick option. This basically means that you will have the ability to use touch controllers as virtual joysticks or virtual input methods, although I'd be very surprised if the gamepad isn't also an option. Now, there's 3 concerns that I have right now with the VR implementation here, though we won't really know how these play out until we have it in our hands. The first is performance on the PlayStation 4. VR is intensive on hardware requirements. And although, for the most part, PSVR titles that I've tried in the past have all performed pretty well, getting a reasonably demanding game like No Man's Sky running at high enough frame rates for VR could be tricky, especially on the vanilla PS4. Low performance invites, among other things, motion sickness, which really brings me on to my second concern, locomotion. Whilst it's clear how players will be moving around when inside ships and vehicles, there's no mention yet on how walking around would work. I suspect it's unlikely that Hello Games will go with the teleportation option, with what with the game being multiplayer, but you never know. Biggest problems for those people like me who suffer from motion sickness in VR is that walking around is often the worst thing. When inside a vehicle, your brain uses the cockpit as a frame of reference. It goes a long way to preventing or at least reducing motion sickness. Basically, if you can see a cockpit or a canopy or something like that around you, your brain kind of thinks that you're actually inside a vehicle, so that really does help with the sense of motion. But walking around doesn't have that, so I'm curious to see how this is going to be dealt with. My third thought, and this may well turn out to be completely unfounded, is how everything will look inside VR. Now, games that aren't built from the ground up with VR in mind sometimes suffer from a false sense of scale. That is, basically things look out of size. Sometimes I've even played games in the past where you're sitting inside a vehicle and it feels as though you're sitting inside a toy car, or you walk around inside a building and doorways look like 20 foot tall. So hopefully this is something that Hello Games have sorted out, because a bad sense of scale tends to ruin the VR experience very, very quickly. But regardless of concerns, this is an awesome time for No Man's Sky, and I'm looking forward to seeing where Hello Games are going with Beyond, both now and with whatever content they have on planned into the future. They have, of course, stated that they plan on continuing to support the game in this way for the foreseeable future, so it certainly seems that No Man's Sky is just going to continue to keep improving. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.